Alright guys, in the shop today we got Max's 02 WRX. We've done some work on this car before in the past, just some cosmetic stuff. A couple fixes for like the turbo, things of that nature. This thing has a eBay special turbo on it. So what he decided to do is we're going with 3-port Grimsby boost controller, a Blausch 16G turbo. It's going to be sweet. 1000cc fuel injector clinic injectors and an AEM 340 fuel pump. Boost controller, some other little goodies. We're going to get this thing torn apart, get it checked out, get this old turbo out of here, get all these injectors put in, get everything put back together.
Alright guys, so here we go. We're taking all the stuff off the top of the motor. We're taking the intercooler off, a bunch of the hoses. We're going to take the expansion tank off, the intake piping and the filter off. Just moving a bunch of stuff out of our way. I'm going to get down, I'm going to drain the radiator because that's part of the process of getting rid of the expansion tank. It's going to be full of antifreeze. Once that's done, I'm going to jump back up, immediately start taking out the passenger side fuel injectors, getting those fuel injectors put in. We need to take our soldering iron, get the soldering iron with the supplied clips, the right connectors to them. You got to solder them in, get them all taped up properly, and get those done. Then we move to the driver's side. Here in just a couple seconds. The driver's side is a little more difficult because you have brackets in the way, you got a lot more hoses in the way, you got the power steering and the air conditioning, or not the power steering, the air conditioning lines in the way, a bunch of other, the throttle lines and whatnot. But everything goes in nice and smoothly. And then I move over to getting the turbo out. I get the turbo out, not a problem. I had an issue with one stud, which you'll see later. Getting it out, and I try to remove the stud. I take my welder and I weld a nut to the top of it. Then I open the garage door and I get my torch out and we start, talking business here. As you can see, it was unsuccessful, and we move on from there.
Alright guys, we've ran into a small snag. Let me get my light here. Wherever it is. Very common in a turbo Subaru. I don't know how well you can see that. That stud right there coming from the up pipe got stripped out, cross-threaded, just absolutely annihilated. Now I have worked on this car before, and when it went on previously it didn't give me an issue, but that's not to say that I didn't cross-thread it just a tiny bit and got a couple heat cycles in it, and on the way out just decided to wreak havoc, and that's exactly what I'm looking at right here. So I'm going to set this thing up with time-lapse. I don't know where I'm going to do it. I am going to be cutting it out. I've already tried to weld a nut to the top of it, spin it out. I've already put brake fluid down here trying to loosen it out, let it sit there for a long time. I put heat on the up pipe, trying to heat this up with the torch. At the same time I was trying to spin this off with the nut. No avail. This thing is stuck fast. It is welded basically in there with rust and everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a cut-off wheel, my grinder, and I'm just going to cut it off as close as I can. I'm going to take my grinder and I'm going to grind it flat against this surface, take a punch it right in the middle, drill it out. Alright, I'll cover this up and you'll see that in the time lapse. This will all be covered up. This tube will be covered up so no metal filings go flying in there. Everything else is pretty much sealed. I don't have to worry about anything. But that's the deal. We'll get this stud replaced before we can put the new turbo back on.
Alright, super fast time lapse. Here we go. We're cutting and we're done.
Alright guys, pardon the music, I may have to mute it, but as you can see, got the stud nice and flat. against the up pipe. Be very careful. I got a little closer on the edges, but I just barely touched them. Just took the rust off. There's not even a gouge in there. Won't be fine. There won't be an exhaust leak. Now I'm gonna get a punch in there, center punch that stud, and spend a whole bunch of money in drill bits drilling that thing out.
Alright guys, so here I go. I'm using a 1/4" drill bit to drill this thing out. Just a basic DeWalt drill bit. Use a line of cutting oil, and I eventually get it out. Took a little while.
Alright, that was a ton of work. And I'm trying to keep the camera steady. Got it all the way through with the 1/4", and it's perfect. It's just a hair away from that front side of it. Now what I'm going to do, I tried to use my extractor bit. Extractor bit's no bueno. I figured it wasn't going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Dremel with a diamond carbide like routing bit. And I'm just going to, right on the side, I'm just going to take it right to the threads. Once it goes to the threads, it should release all the tension off the bolt because, you know, the majority of the metal is gone. Then I can just tap the sides of it, and it'll become loose, and I should be able to spin it out.
And here we go.
Alright, YouTube, screw you and your music thing. Alright, you guys see that? Just a couple taps. And it just popped away from the side. I decided to make 2 relief cuts, one on each side. Now I'm gonna tap it on the other side, and that thing should just spin right out. I don't know if it's easy to see on camera or not. I don't know if it's focusing. It doesn't look like it is.
Alright, here we go. A little tap, tap, tap on the sides of it.
Alright. The thicker side is just not coming out. So I'm just going to go take my Dremel, make another relief cut, and the other 2 pieces will come out.
And here I am just making another relief cut in the thicker part of what's left of the stud. Once I do that, it's able to just come out. I pop it out. It's easy as pie after that. Then I take a tap and I try to thread it through. I used a Harbor Freight one, and it's garbage. Don't use Harbor Freight. I'll tell you later. I went ahead and used a higher quality M10 by 125 thread tap. Got it in there, chased it all the way through. Perfect. Got a bolt in there, and it's good.
Whew. Alright, y'all. That is a pain in the butt. But as you can see from the time lapses, I kind of sped the time lapse up from every 5 seconds to every 1 second when I was getting here to the nitty gritty. So we had a stuck stud, like all these other studs would be stuck if I tried to spin them off. This one right here, yeah, she's getting, these threads look a little shiny. So we were putting some torque on those threads. This one though was completely stripped out on the top. So what I did, take an angle grinder, chop it off as close to the base as possible, then use the angle grinder, just the tip, guys, just the tip. All right, get that stud flush with the rest of the flange. Take a center punch, punch it just slightly off center. And what I did was I used a 1/4" drill bit that was semi-dull, I guess. Took me a long time to get through. And you know, you're holding the drill out in front of you trying to push down, gives you the noodle arms real quick. But I got it, drilled it all the way through, and then what I did was I took a Dremel with one of these carbide bits. It's a high-speed hard metal bit, diamond. All right, they're pretty pricey, but it doesn't take too terribly long. You just make a couple relief cuts in the sides of it, and then the pieces, as you can see, just come out like this. You just give them a little tap on the top. Now you are going to tear up the threads on the top, which is why you just saw me unsuccessfully try to use a Harbor Freight tap. Do not buy Harbor Freight taps, okay? I tried it because it'll work on soft aluminum. This is steel right here. I think it's like I don't know if this is stainless. I don't know what comes factory from Subaru. It's probably just cast. They're junk. Harbor Freight is junk. Sometimes it'll work on aluminum. That's why I tried it. I had that other M10 by 125 thread pitch because I do this a lot. I think it's actually made by Irwin. Really high quality. I chased the threads right through that. I didn't make new threads. I just chased the old threads. You saw me kind of like play around with it. I kind of find where the threads are kind of grabbing, and that's just experience. You'll just figure that out. Now you can completely just wreck all your threads if you just throw it on there and just try to gorilla it on, gorilla that tap right through it. You can completely just trash all the threads. Careful. But I got it through, just took a bolt, put it through just to make sure it is chased through and it's clean. It goes in nice and easy. I'm gonna get a brand new stud, throw it in there. Then I'm gonna put this brand new Bloush turbo on, get the rest of this all buttoned up, and get this thing tuned and on the road. All right, guys, that's it for that fix. What a pain, but you know what, this happens on these older cars. This is a 02. It's got 200,000 miles on it. These things happen, and you just have to be prepared for it. You have to be ready for it, and then you just have to know how to do it and not get flustered. Don't get upset that you can't get it done. There is a way to do it. Sometimes it's expensive, like my way. Is there a cheaper way to do it? Maybe. I don't know. I tried torching it out. I tried welding a nut to it. Wasn't coming. These are the only ways I figured out to do Subaru exhaust studs and bolts. Mainly the studs. Like on the 15 plus WRXs, oh god, those studs coming off for the J-pipe, good gravy. Those things break all the time and you're constantly drilling them out, and it is just a pain in the butt. So, but the way I did it with the drill, then follow it up with the Dremel, tap out the threads, chase them, it's worked every time for me so far. It's kind of time consuming. It is expensive. Those little carbide drill bits are expensive. You use a 1/4 inch drill bit every time. Using one of these, chasing these hardened steel studs, drilling them out. But that's done. I'm gonna go ahead and get this fixed up, and then we'll get the rest of this build done, and we'll be all gravy.